Today on TimesCast, Afghan President Hamid Karzai's half-brother, the linchpin of the security and power structure in southern Afghanistan, was shot and killed on Tuesday. The British Parliament is expected to pass a motion on Wednesday to oppose News Corporation's proposed takeover of the satellite broadcast giant BSkyB Broadcasting. And British Prime Minister David Cameron's awkward ties to the phone hacking scandal force some tough decisions.
This morning at about 11, a trusted police commander came into Hamid Karzai's house and shot him. Karzai was the chairman of the Provincial Council of Kandahar, the president's half-brother, and one of the most important political figures in Afghanistan. He was seen as probably the most influential person throughout southern Afghanistan, particularly in his base in Kandahar. Kandahar is a nexus of corruption, narcotics trading. There's been a lot of money made in the security business there, but it's a very delicate area and, of course, very important for the Americans and the British. There's a big question mark for the troops who are still there about how they will continue to secure the area. He was their access point. He made many of the connections for them with many of the tribal leaders. It gave them one person they could go to help manipulate the security situation and make decisions about where to focus their troops.
Well, there have been a lot of what you might call make or break moments in this, but today really has looked like a decisive day for Rupert Murdoch and his $12 billion bid to take over the biggest satellite television network in Britain, a very lucrative enterprise called BSkyB Broadcasting. The government of Prime Minister David Cameron has announced today that it will support a motion in the House of Commons tomorrow, moved by the Labour Party opposition, supported also by the third party, the Liberal Democrats, which will place all three of the major parties in this country in a position of demanding that Rupert Murdoch drop his bid for complete control of BSkyB, as it's known here. Simultaneously, Mr. Murdoch himself, that's Rupert Murdoch, and his son James, who heads his British subsidiary, and the chief executive who works for James Murdoch, the controversial Rebecca Brooks, have been summoned to testify before Parliament next week. That is going to be a real battle, I would think. In the hours before, the story had already had one of its most dramatic days with the appearance in Parliament of four very senior Scotland Yard police officers who have been running and are now running, in one case, the police inquiry into this scandal.
Have any of your officers received payment that you know of in the last 10 years?
I think it's highly probable in the light of the allegations that are surfacing.
The most arresting of these appearances were those of John Yates and Andy Hayman, who effectively ran the inquiries into this scandal from 2005 through until last year, 2010. The probes were an utter failure.
It's more like Clouseau rather than Columbo.
Well, I mean, I have to say,
you're having dinner with people you're investigating, you don't know they're being investigated, and you signed deals 2 months
well,
after.
I know they're investigated, of course I do.
So it was an arresting day in Parliament, but it was also deeply sad for those of us who have cherished Scotland Yard as one of the country's great institutions, and it today was humiliated, utterly humiliated.
The phone hacking scandal is also shaking the coalition government, Cameron's coalition government. He's in power with the Liberal Democrats, but they've been far more critical of News International, of the phone hacking, of Cameron's hiring Andy Coulson, the former News of the World editor, and also calling for the abandonment by Murdoch of the BSkyB bid. That's driving this wedge between Cameron and Clegg, and he's shaping the political landscape in really interesting ways. So far, Cameron has tried to catch up and defuse the crisis. He's having mixed success. Today, he's keeping quite a low profile and staying out of the news. Tomorrow, it's Prime Minister's question time here in London, and once again he'll have to face more questions about the phone hacking scandal.